Hi friends, I am Dr. Manan Gujarathi. I am a consultant orthopedic surgeon. I specialize in the surgical treatment of osteoarthritis and fractures, and I have been invited here today to talk about the importance of musculoskeletal health. So, what is musculoskeletal health and why me? So, like a cardiologist will specialize in the matters of the heart, or a general surgeon will probably talk about the viscera, such as the liver and the digestive system. We orthopedic surgeons, along with the physiotherapist, we are involved in the treatment of your moving parts, the upper limbs, the lower limbs, the spine. And that's why we are the guys who enjoy studying and talking about the musculoskeletal system. So why suddenly is musculoskeletal system the center of all attention today? See, in the pre-COVID era, you had a 12-hour workday and a few hours of traveling, few hours of household chores, and still, even though you did not have a systematic exercise program underway, your body was active and the musculoskeletal disorders were at bay. When we were hit with this warlike situation of COVID, there was a sudden lockdown. All the professional and social and recreational pursuits, they went for a toss, they came to a standstill. And in addition to that, came the factors of work from home. 12 to 14 hours of work from home, confined to your small little cubicle of house, and lack of proper ergonomic sitting positions. Sometimes you're sitting on the sofa, sometimes you're sitting on the bed, sometimes on the floor. All this has led to a massive outbreak of joint pains, back pain, knee pain, and there is suddenly a focus on the musculoskeletal system. In an ideal scenario, the youngster or the office goer will have an ideal musculoskeletal health, which will help him to be dexterous and mobile, and he'll be able to enjoy all the pursuits of life, whether they are personal, professional, or societal. But with lack of all these limited activities, including traveling and social course, there is an outbreak of stiffness and muscle pain, and all these non-communicable diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, they have gone through the roof. Obesity has gone through the roof, and lack of exercise has made all the musculoskeletal disorders also increase. And to combat that, there is the only way out is a optimum medical and physical health. Because what happens is there is a direct relationship between painful musculoskeletal conditions and physical activity. When you have acute disabling pains or a low grade dull aching lingering pain that you know that is not letting you perform to your expectation, it imposes physical limitations on you, it mars your physical performance and reduces your stamina. Inability to carry out such menial tasks, it hits your self confidence and it undermines the self worth. It makes you reluctant to engage in social activities like playing a game of cricket or going out dancing, and general withdrawal from social life. This is where all these factors are coming in. As there is unlocking is about to begin, people are having more and more pains and displeasure from activities that they used to find pleasurable. Typically we associate this with 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds who are not able to perform to their expected standards. But a more dramatic effect of such problems is seen in the elderly. What happens is, with impaired musculoskeletal health, these older people, they will withdraw themselves from the societal and community activities that they previously used to be a part of. This leads to reduced physical activity and performance and increased frailty. They'll become weak, the muscle mass will go down, there will be a loss of independence and a general sense of lethargy and gloom. They'll lose their joie de vivre, the joy of life. And typically in a person with arthritis and musculoskeletal disorders, the energy levels go down, activity levels go down, and there's a downward spiral of lethargy, poor digestion, and depression. There are certain soft markers, like difficulty to get in and out of chairs, reduced grip strength, slow speed of walking, loss of balance easily. These themselves, these easy soft markers, are known and proven to be a marker of increased mortality. So, therefore, the only way to combat the problems that occur with aging are to maintain a very good physical fitness or an optimum musculoskeletal health. So, on a personal level, this is the impact. But what is the impact on the level of the society? So, all over the world, what we have found is impaired musculoskeletal health increases mortality and morbidity, popularizing the typical cliche, sitting is the new smoking. What does this mean? Sitting is the new smoking. In the 1920s and the 1940s, smoking was a social custom. Everybody used to offer each other cigarettes, and they used to smoke in the halls, they used to smoke in social gatherings, and people started suddenly developing a lot of cancers. And they realized smoking is, it's very harmful. And suddenly, if all these Western societies, they actively took measures to discourage smoking. They made cigarettes expensive, they made tobacco highly toxic. And this is what we are saying now, that just like smoking is so dangerous, so is sitting in the same place. If you are confined to your desk, if you are confined to your computer for 8 to 12 hours a day, you will get lethargic digestive process with constipation. You will get fatigue in the postural muscles of your back and your knee. You'll start getting knee pain, you start getting back pain. Blood becomes sticky. It will make you subject to so many cardiovascular diseases. And the right time to act is now. Once you once you are able to understand that sitting is the new smoking, you get out of your chair every hour or so for 5-10 minutes, you restart your system, and everything goes back to normal. Basically, a good musculoskeletal health, it is the engine that drives your physique, that drives your body to the peak performance. Whether that peak performance is personal, social, professional, in all these things, the common part is a good musculoskeletal system. You can see that already globally the retirement age is going up. You have to be older and older in order to retire. So what is going to drive your performance after a certain age? It's going to be a good health. If you are not fit at the age of 60, if you're not physically fit at the age of 65, it doesn't matter what bank balance you have or which is the country of your residence. If you can't get out from the bed and get into your car or drive yourself to the mall, your poor physical health is not going to let you live life comfortably or enjoy your retirement. This is why all these Western countries, high income countries, they have enforced a lot of ergonomic standards at the workplace. They're doing a lot of interventions so that the employees that work with them for life, they are protected from back pain, they're protected from knee arthritis and shoulder problems. Ultimately, what happens is once the musculoskeletal issues crop in, there is loss of work time, there is early retirement, and even after retirement, there's a loss of early savings. Whatever retirement savings that you build for your retirement, they get washed off. All these things have one thing in common, whether you are in a high income country or in a country like developing country. So yeah, and that is your good physical health. What happens, let's say you don't have a good physical health, it will take you into a chronic pain syndrome. It results in a lot of disability, it results in social disengagement, and ultimately this leads to medical, mental issues as well. People tend to become more anxious, they may get depressed, they may develop mood disorders, eating disorders. So it is all connected, mental, physical, and internal metabolic and endocrine health. One thing goes out of the out of balance, it will also automatically affect our metabolic and endocrine orchestra. And you may encounter increasing insulin resistance in such patients. They start developing obesity, they get type 2 diabetes, they develop cardiorespiratory disorders like asthma or hypertension, and ultimately leading to a vicious negative cycle. This cycle not only worsens each other, but they compound each other's management more difficult. They complicate. If a patient has hypertension, has diabetes, then if he suffers a fracture, he will have difficult time coming out of it. If a person is frail, he has low bone stock, it will make any surgery for him more complicated. Which is why we've realized that poor health as well as obesity is the most crucial and most a modifiable risk factor in the development of complications. And which is why you will see all your doctors telling you about talking about BMI and losing weight and regular exercise. Why? Because all these problems create a burden. The person who is obese, he has a burden on himself, but the society which has a lot of obese people, they have a societal burden on the society itself. There is a global disease burden which is being increased because of increasing musculoskeletal problems. Developed nations have already identified this, and they have already understood that this musculoskeletal problems, they transform into long-term disability. But in reality, developed countries are far more capable of dealing with this problem. In the low and the developing countries, the problem is going to be a lot worse, whether it is osteoporosis, whether it is arthritis, fractures, or metabolic problems. Why? Because we already have the World Bank data in hand. The World Bank data states that around 5 decades from now, by 2050, the developing countries will have a five-fold increase in the population above 40 as compared to the developed countries. And so we will have a lot more patients with metabolic problems, with obesity, with all these problems. And that has to be tackled before it occurs. Now is the time to act on it. which is why we are spreading awareness about good musculoskeletal health. How is it important? Why should we get it and how to get it? The main cause why it's so widespread now is blind imitation of so many cultural practices that we see, like unhealthy food, junk food, and increased lifestyle choices such as use of personal vehicles, and basically we are blindly imitating what is being done in the western world for comfort, without which is actually causing a sedentary life and reducing physical activities. Increased use of these high speed vehicles, they are increasing the amount of accidents and their severity, ultimately complicating the management as well. So we are learning from the West where they are going wrong. We are trying to improve ourselves. For example, sedentary lifestyle, explosive urbanization that has happened over the last few decades. All the cities have cropped up like fungi, and that has fostered small house sizes, a sedentary lifestyle. Children have become used to high speed internet. With high speed internet you get a lot of streaming happening, a lot of web series and streaming movies on OTTs like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney and YouTube. They have a lot of multiplayer games they are playing with high speed internet. Even Modi ji, he took a jibe at this by saying, "Arey, ye to PUBG wala dikhta hai." So the point being that all these high-speed internet-related activities, they are going to make a lifestyle more sedentary. A child is required to spend more time at the playground and playing with friends. With lockdown, all this time is given to the screen. And once the screen is claiming the time, it's an addiction, and the screen time keeps on going, increasing, causing more and more and more sedentary life, weakening the bones and muscles from forming right when it is their growth phase, instead leading to adiposity or development of a lot of fatty tissues everywhere. Such sedentary behavior has been proven in many papers across the world to lead to increased risk of chronic diseases, be it renal diseases, endocrine diseases, or obesity. It is more like a butterfly effect. Watching more sitcoms, eating unhealthy food, sedentary life keeps the cycle going on, and ultimately it leads to a massive change in future. So now that we have defined and spoke about this problem at such length, what is the fix? I have to give you some good news, right? So what we have found is, not just we, but WHO and Arthritis UK have found, is that even a small amount of activity done on a regular basis, in addition to your regular activity, can counter the effects of sedentary lifestyle. Once you increase your physical activity and regular exercise, your musculoskeletal health is bound to get optimized. Over a million participants were meta-analyzed, and it was conclusively proven in the past that 1 hour of moderate physical activity, such as cycling, swimming, and any kind of aerobic activity which will involve some loading and movement of your hand, which will get your heart rate up, it will reduce, and not just reduce but completely counteract the effects of sitting sedentary at your desk for more than 8 hours a day. So in other words, if I told you sitting is the new smoking, I'm happy to inform you that movement is life. We have very strong evidence to recommend that exercise and regular physical activity will reduce the risk of arthritis, it will reduce the risk of osteoporosis, it will reduce the risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and so on. Coming back to what do the authorities advise? WHO. So what when you talk about the who's who? So the WHO recommends that even moderate physical activity for as little as 20 minutes a day or 2 hours a week will improve your musculoskeletal health. It will mitigate the risk of cardiovascular disease over the entire lifetime. And these activities do not have to be going to the gym and having a high intensity workout. They can be simple exercises like brisk walking, yoga, cycling, aerobics, or swimming. And you will see that doctors, especially orthopedic surgeons, we have prescribed exercise as a modality for rehabilitation from musculoskeletal injuries, supraspinatus tears, back pain, chondromalacia patella. We keep advising exercise. As of now, we are using exercise increasingly to prevent these problems from happening. You want to be away from back pain, you're worried about back pain, you strengthen your core, you strengthen your glutes. How you do it is up to you. You do Surya Namaskar, you do training, you do exercises, that's up to you. Similarly, you don't want your knees to get bad, you should strengthen your hamstrings and your quads. You do cycling, you do lunges, you do standing squats, wall squats, stretching. It will keep your knee disorders at bay. So now that we've understood what is the impact of the problem, we have to quantify it. In order to study and quantify it, we have identified a unit such as DALYs. DALYs means disability adjusted life years. And certain problems such as knee pain and back pain they will make your life disabled in terms of years together. So the to counter these dallies, we have to have targeted approaches. For instance, a group exercise program at workplace is a wonderful initiative to target at-risk groups for neck pain and back pain, in addition to ergonomic modifications and healthy diet. For the retired homebound elderly, balance and strength training, home hazard assessment, fall prevention programs, recreational activities such as gardening or dancing can help to counter loss of muscle mass and counter frailty. For people who are at work, they have to be encouraged to do something they enjoy. That can be cycling, that can be swimming, that can be walking, that can be aerobics, dancing, or pursuing sports. Anything that will stimulate physical activity and will not have to be done in a forceful manner. These activities will be pursued with more interest by the growing adult, and they will strengthen the muscle, they will lubricate the joint, they will stretch out the muscles, and they will make the tendons more pliable and flexible. So this is the kind of approach we need to deal with while dealing with the musculoskeletal health. So finally, what is the impact of aging on musculoskeletal health? Often I tell my patients that aging is inescapable, but getting old, frailty and senility is at least somewhat negotiable. And how can you do that? Optimal physical exercise and mental exercise can help you cope up with the drawbacks of aging. In my opinion, exercise is the proverbial sanjeevani to counter and even reverse the changes that occur with aging, often labeled as the aging phenotype. In fact, even after the age of 60, moderate amount of well supervised exercise will improve your muscle mass, and it will improve the function of your muscles by increasing the ratio of type 1 to type 2 muscle fibers and increasing the cross sectional area of the muscle type 2 muscle fibers. In other words, they will help you retain strength and retain form. Mechanical loading that occurs during exercise, it will act on a molecular, cellular, and tissue level in the bone, and it will, improve the cell proliferation. It will improve collagen synthesis and strength and quality of healing response in case of an injury. Bone loading will boost bone density. It improves the blood circulation and reduces antioxidant. It will reduces the inflammation across the bone, reducing the pain syndromes along the bones that are existing. Improving bone density will also reduce the risk of fragility fractures. For most postmenopausal women, in addition to exercise, what we have found is improved protein in the diet, high protein diet will also help to increase the bone health and muscle health. So for an improved musculoskeletal health, it is pertinent for a woman to have a high protein diet. Look at it this way. A bone consists of a matrix of protein on which mineralization of calcium occurs. If there is a lot of inflow of calcium, but the bone density is poor because of poor bone protein matrix, the calcium is not going to do a lot of wonders. If a woman is maintaining a healthy daily protein intake, the bone mineralization process is augmented, the bone density is augmented, and it has a protective effect against all these fragility fractures. What we have also found is that earlier the woman starts with healthy exercise and diet plans, the better is the effect in the long run. Now that we've spoken of aging and frailty, we should look at the other end of the spectrum as well. What is the other end of the spectrum of poor musculoskeletal health? It is the children. Childhood obesity is an epidemic, and we are really worried about dealing with childhood obesity. Lack of physical activity, unhealthy diet, and sedentary lifestyle that we spoke about the teenagers is also involved in children. And once when the pediatric obesity happens, the musculoskeletal problems are at an increased risk, not just in childhood, but in the entire lifetime. And not just musculoskeletal problems, but also type 2 diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases. The culprit behind this often is a food that is low in nutritional value and very high in caloric content. This can be fried food like chips, burgers, and maida products like bread and biscuits. They will predispose the child to gain weight very, very fast. The reduced physical fitness and flabby bodies, which will also hit the child's self-esteem. It may increase the propensity for mood disorders like depression, eating disorders, and so on. So for the child, the proper home cooked meal is the foundation of healthy living. We've had a study of more than 400 individuals done over a period of 3 years in the past, which has proven beyond any doubt that consuming a daily intake of vegetables and fruits will enrich the diet with potassium, it will enrich the diet with fatty acids, it will enrich the diet with vitamins. This will help the child lose weight and retain muscle mass even in his old age, even after the age of 65. A diet rich in potassium will help you retain muscle mass. Other such things like calcium, vitamin D, and healthy intake of proteins, they are the formative blocks which will create a very healthy and fit body and prevent occurrence of osteoporosis in childhood and adulthood. It prevent the occurrence of osteoarthritis in childhood and adulthood. It will reduce the risk of fracture. It's not that rare for a child to have a domestic fall and have a bad fracture. We are seeing such cases increasingly. What is the cause? Poor protein in diet, no calcium, hypovitaminosis D, rickets. And the only way to deal with it is to have a very good nutritional program from home. In simple words, if we don't eat our food like medicine, we will be forced to eat our medicines as food. So, coming back to what can be done at home for the children, a good diet, encouraging exercise, limiting screen time, and having restrictions on the use of high speed internet. In my opinion, these are the things which will ensure good musculoskeletal health in the childhood age. This brings me to the end of my talk on musculoskeletal health. We have addressed the musculoskeletal health issues in the working population, in the aging population, and in children. I hope my information has been of great use to you. And if you have any queries, you can get back to me on my email. Thank you.